Hey there, film fans. I am Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
Yeah, you know what? That's right. That's exactly right. People, we make this a drinking game. That's what we do to avoid lazy negativity where we just try to shit on movies and be those stuffy negative podcasts. Every single time we say something negative, you're going to hear a sound that goes like this. That sound means we're drinking, people, and I hope you drink along with us when we talk about this movie.
Yeah. So pour yourselves a glass, and this is about the size of this movie.
Yeah, you got the big mug.
Yeah, I got the big mug. It's a big movie. It's a big movie, and we've been waiting a long time for this one.
Dune.
True
We're
story.
talking about Chapter 1, the first part of Dune. Second chapter coming in 2 years.
Yeah.
Get stoked.
I love that he put Chapter 1 on it before, they didn't go back and do it like Star Wars did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
He
it was a new hope.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Yeah. You know what we're talking about, people. We're talking about Dune. So, John,
Everybody's
shout our people
about
out so we can get into this.
All right, we have a beer sponsor. His name is Carlos Barroso. The handle on Instagram, if you would like to give that gentleman a follow, is CBarroso Bar 2019. That is CBARROZOBAR 2019. And if you're digging the music on this episode and every single episode, head on over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist, and you can download all that music for free. That is provided by the artist Dasein, Dasein. All right, you guys, we've been anticipating this
We've been
for
talking about
years.
this.
Before
That's
we
right.
start, I just realized I'm now neighbors with Carlos again.
Oh, my God.
yeah.
Dave's going to do the next
Hell yeah.
beer run.
Hell
Carlos,
yeah, dude.
I hope you still listen to this show, Carlos.
Yeah, you're right.
This Narragansett I have is, pretty. It's okay. It's okay, but, I think there's better out there.
He criticizes beer.
Oh my God.
Dave,
All right.
Come on.
Dave, I'm so sorry we can't do Spice World for you today, all right? So that we have to move on to Dune here.
Well, yeah, we're going to do the
Christ,
sequel
yeah.
instead. Yeah, that was my favorite meme from this week. Spice World is the prequel to Dune.
Sure.
If you haven't seen the film yet,
Just
you
making
won't get
sure
that
everyone
joke, but
knows we're referring to the movie Spice World, starring the artists, the Spice
Yes.
Girls.
So
Right.
what did Amoeba?
For all the listeners out there who would like to join me in buzzing my two co-hosts here for having loved
Dude.
and seen that movie.
Wait, what the
I think
fuck?
one of them even fucking owned it.
I owned it.
I'm not gonna.
And I'll
Oh
own
my
that.
God.
I owned the movie. I owned all their albums. I once got an
All right.
actual complaint in a comedy club I worked in for playing too much of it.
Wait, that you can't.
Wow,
Nowadays
hardcore
you
fan,
can't play
yeah.
too much Spice World. Also, I saw this at my grandma's house. That's where I remember seeing it. And you know what? She loved it. So fuck you, John. That's what I say to you.
Oh my God! Yes, yes.
right.
No, you're right. It's probably a great movie. I've never seen
then-
it. I don't mean to judge it. I'm kidding. Of course, it's not. What is wrong with you guys?
After we finished the movie, we had to after we finished Spice World, we had to put the VHS tape into the rewinding machine so that we could rewind it before we returned it
No,
to
after you
Blockbuster.
finish Spice,
the
yeah,
high-speed rewind.
after you finish Spice World, like the phone rings, you pick it up and it's like Zika Zika.
Dave, this movie is not fresh in our head. You can't just go ahead and quote their most famous song. Like, you can't do it. Okay.
Oh my God!
All right, we're talking about Dune. So we're a week into this. It's already been greenlit. It had not been greenlit when the film came out to a worldwide release. I think October 22nd.
Yeah, they
was
were
the
nervous
Friday.
about this one.
This very famously, we've been talking about this. We've been teasing it for over a year because as soon as the shutdown happened, they delayed Dune and a lot of other films like Tenet, our favorite. We hit our
Tenet.
Tenet quota for the episode.
Haven't heard that in a while.
They delayed the movies because they wanted the theatrical run, and then Warner Brothers said, you know what, we have an idea. HBO Max really wants followers. Let's come up with a partnership, and we'll release every single Warner Brothers movie, like this happened in Mortal Kombat, as you may remember, In the Heights, a lot of other films. We're going to release them in the theaters and on HBO Max on the same day. And Denis Villeneuve pulled a politician and said,
Went,
fuck
"Fuck
you,"
you.
publicly to everybody in the world. The day that the announcement came out, he said, I do not co-sign this. I'm going to fight this. I want Dune in the theaters and theaters only. Fuck you, Warner. I want a sequel. And it was like, whoa! Obviously, it was good for people with a financial stake in the film. Timothée Chalamet, who I imagine has a financial stake in at least the next one, was surprisingly silent. Good boy. Good boy, Timmy. But how did this do? Well, guess what? HBO Max, knowing that they are so far losing the streaming wars to Disney and to Netflix and hopefully not Apple, but their numbers are not living up to scratch. Even though they have the Emmys and they have all that kind of stuff, they are not releasing their numbers. So we do not know how it's doing on HBO Max. But $40 million US, a little bit less than they wanted, but internationally we're up around 250 right now.
Actually,
it's definitely
they predicted 31.
Well, they predicted it like the week of, but
Yeah.
you know, a long time ago it was like 50 to 70, and then as this demographic, they were like, uh-oh, how does Venom make $90 million? Halloween Kills makes $50 million in its opening weekend, and Dune, they were like, not a chance. So, and this is a movie that stars Timothée Chalamet, Academy Award nominee, who our friends at the Matt and Mark movie show were like, where did this guy come from? And it's like, where have you been for the last 4 years, people? Rebecca Ferguson.
What was his Oscar for?
Call Me by Your Name.
Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah, of course.
He didn't win.
He didn't win. He was the same. It was the same year as Lady Bird, which she had a small role in, but it was like this big up and coming, just boom, and pretty quickly he was in
Little Women last year.
Beautiful Boy, and then Little Women. He was in The King on Netflix, which a lot of people saw, and he's gonna be fucking Wonka. So there you go. He's also in the French Dispatch. Interstellar, of course.
Interstellar?
Homeland.
What? No way.
So we know his career. Yeah, he's the kid in Interstellar.
I had no idea.
He's Casey Affleck. Okay, guys, fuck. This movie, which is directed by Denis Villeneuve, who did Prisoners, and he did Arrival, and Sicario is my favorite of his. I'll say that up front. The second Sicario, not my favorite. Blade Runner
Nobody's
2049. Yep, Dave. Blade Runner 2049. I'm missing something in there along the way, but he's done a lot of big shit. Denis Villeneuve, you have Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Dave Bautista, Zendaya. I'm not sure if I missed anybody, but if you've seen the poster, you're just like, whoa! It's like a fucking Wes Anderson movie with star power, people.
Yeah, and half of those are in it for like 5 minutes.
Good,
but in
unforgettable.
The second one.
Oh yeah, well. Oh, and did I say Charlotte Rampling? Charlotte Rampling was awesome in this. Anyway, crazy amount of star power. This is, of course, based on Dune, the Frank Herbert novel. This is a remake of sorts, since you have the 1984 David Lynch film. I don't know what John's shaking his head about, but I don't know.
Very loud motorcycle. Sorry, I thought you could hear it.
No.
Couldn't hear it, although you're wearing an American shirt with a blurred background, so it sounded like you were just at the local QAnon rally. Oh, yeah, cool.
That's gonna put our search up in Google, I'm sure, for the wrong crowd.
Let's get it, Jim Caviezel. Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, come at us, Jim.
All right.
I drove past City Hall the other day here in LA, and there was an anti-vax protest going on, and there were like 5 really angry fucking rednecks out front. Like, woo, fuck yeah! It was so hilarious, dude.
That's
like
the best part.
Rally.
The best part about LA versus New York is there are just no rednecks in New York. It just doesn't happen. But in LA, you got a lot of people that look like they're right out of southern Tennessee.
We got some Nazis once, but they went right up the top of Manhattan where you couldn't find them, and staged a little rally there and then ran away.
Interesting.
Fuck you, Nazis.
Good. Cool. Anything else in the setup before I read the storyline and we get into this?
No, let's do it.
Because I'm sure we'll organically kind of talk.
The
making of is pretty crazy. It just took a long time. Anyway, keep going.
So John's suggestion is that we will organically have a perfect, amazing, insightful conversation. I can't fucking wait. Here is the storyline. This is not the short description on IMDb. This is on the storyline section. This was submitted by Warner Brothers, or so they claim. A mythic and emotionally charged hero's journey. This is what happens when the studio gets to decide the fucking tagline for this.
Yeah.
A mythic and emotionally charged hero's journey, Dune, tells the story of Paul Atreides, a brilliant... Is he brilliant? Did they make that clear in the movie?
Yeah,
brilliant and gifted young man, born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, who must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's...
It's a fucking Rick and Morty episode?
As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's, this is the dangerous ones, the new one, the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, sand, a commodity capable of unlocking humanity's greatest potential.
Sand.
Only those who can conquer their fear will survive. Taglines:
Dude,
Beyond fear, destiny
if,
awaits.
if it's sand, go to any Australian beach for about 6 hours. Your ass crack is loaded.
Oh
What?
my God!
Get out of here with your fucking ass crack. All right, wait, quickly.
Let's read the other IMDb little blurb real fast for a
Right.
very simple setup.
Yeah.
Ready? A feature adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and most vital element in the galaxy.
Yeah, but the story's not about that. The story's about him. It's about his destiny,
It
right?
is, it
Isn't
is,
this
but
fucking
that's-
Star Wars
that's
meets
to- that's
like
to-
fucking?
That's to get you in. Like that's a better setup, I think, because it leaves a little bit.
Yeah, I mean both say something, and but I'm glad you said that. We're already kind of starting to talk about this
I do.
because
Just before we go into this, I do want to ask, how did you watch this?
Oh, you motherfucker! I knew you were gonna ask this.
because I have no doubt that Dave beat me to going to see it in a kick-ass either IMAX or expanded format IMAX or Dolby Atmos. What'd you see it in?
IMAX.
IMAX. I saw it in, again, regular digital, the
Cool.
monster regular digital of #1 theater here at the Grove at AMC. But you know what? I think I'm going to go see it in Dolby or IMAX because if anything deserved it, it's a movie like this for sure. How did it sound, Dave? How did it look?
How did it sound? Holy fuck, dude.
Holy fuck. I mean, it sounded great in mine, but I could tell I was missing in the massive,
I mean, when he used like the voice on her at one point, like, because I'd literally jumped out of my seat.
Oh, yeah.
It was cranked. It had, like, it was all there, basically. It's hard to put into too much words without ruining it, but it'll scare the shit out of you when it happens in a theater, like in a full rig theater. I will say, though, a lot of aspect ratio changing again. There's not that much extra in the IMAX, to be honest. If you go and see it in Dolby Cinema, you'll probably have a better experience because the sound mix for this is fucking phenomenal. And the IMAX, I did actually find the constantly changing aspect ratio a little distracting at the beginning. Probably because I was fucking looking for it because I'm on a mission about that.
I don't know if it distracted a lot of other people, but
now we're thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hans Zimmer score, as John pointed out, of course, immediately after seeing this movie.
Oh, dude. How many people do you think already have that soundtrack as their Getting Busy theme?
Do it. You know what? I have been listening to it. They did something real cool. We're not really talking about the movie yet, folks, but sorry, since we're talking about Hans for just a second, he, if you like to follow him and you know anything about the way he writes music, he likes to make new synths and try to create all his new, program all of his new electronic equipment each time he does a new film. He doesn't save anything. And the way he starts his process by doing that is by just making basically a music journal. So, and then he kind of starts writing out of the journal. He'll kind of start sharing the new music with Chris Nolan or Denis or whoever he's working with. And he released not only onto Spotify and all the sources, not only the official soundtrack, he released his digital music journal as well. And the music journal is beautiful and awesome. There's a lot of music that just didn't make it into the film, but it's kind of cool just to see where he was coming from with themes and sounds. Yeah, really cool. Really
cool. That's
cool.
going to drive up their membership.
To that a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty fucking awesome. Anyway,
sponsored by Spotify.
Let's get into the movie.
I think he did a good job. Yeah. I think he did a great job. It didn't sound like it still sounds like Hans Zimmer, but you don't feel like Chris Nolan you don't feel like you're sitting in a Chris Nolan movie. I'm not picking on Hans at all. I think some people just associate him directly with Christopher Nolan. This felt like a different planet.
I mean, he does good work. Why wouldn't the best people want him?
Lion King for me personally, but
Lion King, dude. Yeah.
Well,
Pirates.
I was trying to find though really quickly because the guy who runs, the guy who has been doing Denis mixing, his sound mixing, he did it for 2049 Blade Runner and he did it for Dune as well. I was trying to get that man's name just because holy crap, they are just doing some absolutely incredible work and doing some weird stuff with the way they design. There's some effects in here like Denis did not want Dune to sound like. They weren't trying to make up these crazy brand new programmable sounds. I don't know if you guys caught it, but just a real classic element, just as a perfect example. The weird flying machines, they're kind of like helicopters, kind of like planes that they use on Planet Dune.
The Thropters?
The guy was talking about like how he wanted to mix this and he was trying to make all these weird sounds and Denis was like, it should just sound like a lawnmower. So those are lawnmowers. Those are push lawnmower sounds that they used for there. Cool. So he was trying to like ground it in different ways that, I don't know, just really weird effective.
It's not often it's worth going to see a film just for the sound.
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
and
this
but
is one,
again,
right?
that is one aspect of it. There's so many other things.
Yeah, let's
Who's
get
read
into it,
Who's
Dave.
read the
I'm
book?
gonna.
Who's read the book?
I've read the books. There are a few. There are
There's
there are
5 of them.
several.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed reading this, and I had one of those magic things happen where I think when I read that book for the first time a few years ago, very soon after finishing it, I read a little interview in Variety about how one of my favorite directors, Denis Villeneuve, just turned down directing the next Bond so that he could direct Dune. And I was like, oh my God, I was
Wow.
so excited. It like just
Wow.
landed
You know what?
perfectly. I was
That
really
turned
getting
out
really into
okay.
his work.
Turned
That
out
turned out
okay.
okay. I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
say if this if this drives up book sales of that series, great.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
of course it will.
Like this
how
is
about-
this is
let's jump-
sci-fi.
how about,
Like,
how about the 84 Lynch
nothing
movie?
else.
Last setup. Has anybody seen the 84 Lynch? Dude?
yeah,
Definitely, yeah. And you know what? Just a real tragedy, so we don't have to keep talking about it. And anyone who has brought that movie up in the past several weeks or months or whatever, if you've been thinking about it, just because David Lynch is the fucking man, and maybe you wanted to watch some other renditions of Dune, there's a really good, not really good. There's an okay miniseries that was made, and there's the famous, infamous, notorious theatrical cut of David Lynch's Dune. That is a real tragedy because there is an enormous amount of footage that was cut out of that. There is
An
a director's
enormous
cut that's
amount.
like 4 hours long.
yeah.
That this is a huge,
It was one of those
gigantic book.
cases where
Imagine
they-
if Peter
Yeah,
Jackson
it's
had
one of those
tried to make
cases
Lord
where
of
they
the Rings
sacked
in
the
one
director.
movie.
They sacked the director
Yeah.
and finished the film without him, basically, and cut it
He
down.
basically, it almost got down to firing. He refused to have his name attached to it
Yeah.
if they released that cut. So he did still direct the entire fucking thing and oversee his cut. And then they had some huge differences. So anyway, don't watch that theatrical cut of David Lynch's Dune. It's just a real shame. There's still some cool moments, but it's not his movie. It's not the book.
I did have some problems with how they portrayed Paul in that one, but yeah, that's here nor there. It's still
classic Kyle
it's still-
MacLachlan
it's
from
it's still
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, something
The
you've
mayor
never seen
in
before.
Portlandia.
But again,
Yeah,
if
it's
we
still
reference the books,
interesting.
we reference that movie. Like, if you do any search for books unadaptable for film, Dune sits around number 3 on almost every list you find. So
What
this
is it? Just out of curiosity,
This is I hadn't heard of some of the other ones. I was
The Brothers Karamazov. But, what else is-
But this is I didn't actually. I was just looking to see where it sat on the list. I didn't look at the other ones around it. But it's like, this is known as one of the most unadaptable books ever.
and I
they-
want to talk about why. But first, I want to hear. I want to hear. Let's just straight up. Let's just go around the horn, and just say what our general thoughts were first, because I have been dying to hear what you guys thought. Dave, who is familiar with it, Jeff, who was totally unfamiliar with it, out of just maybe his friends like talking to him about it, like me or something. What did you guys think, just as cold moviegoers? Because I'm not gonna lie, all of my opinions have to do with the fact that this book is told in a very interesting way. And I've had a few interesting conversations with some film friends here at USC who have and have not read the book. And I think the opinions vary. And I'm just curious to hear what you guys think. And then we'll have a deeper conversation. Jeff, get in there. Don't you fucking nod
What do you
at
mean
Dave.
me?
Come
I
on,
feel
you go
like
first.
I want to not Dave.
I
I do the setup so that I can punt to you and the actual discussion happens.
Yeah, you're in the hot seat now, mate.
I would say on the whole, I really liked the experience of seeing the film, and I liked watching it, and it was interesting, and a lot of it was really fascinating. And I left the theater not knowing if it would actually leave a mark long term.
Yeah.
But I loved
understand.
I loved the 2.5 hours that I was in the seats. I liked the journey. I liked the ideas that were presented. But as of even now, it was a couple days since I've seen it. I'm kind of like, can I move on? Like, I don't know. Dave?
Yeah.
Well, as we know, I'm a sci-fi nerd, absolute sci-fi nerd. Like, I'm all in for everything sci-fi. But again, a lot of modern sci-fi tends to be a little campy or a little, one that can't rely on comedy or something like that. This is sci-fi like we've never really seen done before. It was like gritty and grounded. There's nothing campy there. As far as I'm concerned, I loved what they did with this. The world building was amazing. Having not read the books, I went in cold, and I did not suffer for it. It guided me right the way through everything I needed to know, and I cannot wait for the second one. I want to see more of that sandworm action.
Sandworms are cool.
Jesus, dude. Wow.
Sandworms are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought this was a phenomenal effort and well worth the wait.
Nice.
I think I do too, man. I'm going to second that completely. My brother and I are big fans of this work, and we both are really just pretentious with our sci-fi just in general. And we are
What?
huge fans. Shocking, huge fans of Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
Give it up for the original Blade Runner. I know that changed a lot of people. They got a lot of people in that generation, filmmaking wise, that community into films. Ridley Scott did something really unique. But that first one has never spoken to me as deeply because I'm a huge fan of the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, that Blade Runner is based on. I did love Denis' take on it. It's not the same story, but it's based on the same subject matter. But the way he approached tonally, the way he grounded everything. I mean, Arrival was the first time I consciously saw anything made by him. And
I had no idea when I walked into Arrival. I had no idea what I was in for.
Yeah.
It was you and me, right?
I think
Did
so.
you and I see that together? Did I see that? I saw it with you. Anyway, I saw that a few times in the theater. But my God, he is a director, and we can maybe talk a little bit about his past. But like a lot of filmmakers who come from a, dare I say it, dirty word, auteur kind of background, because he doesn't write his own scripts, but he has had the camera in his hand for a large part of his early training. And when he got bigger and bigger budgets, even with his first couple features up in Canada, he continued taking risks. And unlike a lot of filmmakers, I meant to say, he got bigger and bigger budgets. And I don't think he got more and more commercial. I don't think he got eaten up by the commercial machine. And I think this is a real testament to it. He even said in an interview after Blade Runner 2049, it didn't tank by any means, but it did not hit it out of the park. It did not make as much money as they wanted. Critics liked it. Some critics didn't like it, but a lot of critics did like it, and a lot of hardcore sci-fi fans and Philip K. Dick fans thought it was wonderful. A lot of his fans thought it was really great, but he went on record in an interview literally saying that he was disappointed with the turnout, that he really thought he had made a more commercially accessible film. So he was going to try to make Dune more accessible.
Well, it's funny. I will tell you, in my screening, like all the way through the trailers, everyone's sitting there. This theater was packed, by the way.
Mine too. We had a good
mine too.
So I'm sitting there and everyone's talking and I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be like, we're back to rowdy cinema. Oh no. That first note hit, silence for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Silence. Like
Me
nobody
too.
said, one guy said a word down here, and I think it was to do with the film. And I guess he just couldn't help himself. But like everyone was just enraptured. And these are people who are standing in the queue talking about what this movie is, and they had no fucking idea. Like they're talking about, oh, it's this planet called Dune, and like they come to invade it, and I'm like, dude, you've watched the trailer. That's it. You're in for a good time. And they were. It held everyone.
Yes.
So
and
I think it's
a testament to take the scale and production value of this movie is enormous. It's as big as it gets. It's right up there with all the other gigantic movies. But he took an auteur style to it. I don't know how else to say it. There are a lot of shots, just as a very
I can sort of help
example.
you with that.
There are a lot of shots that are one take. He likes to set his camera up in the right spot and try not to move. He doesn't get shameless amounts of coverage. Even with the big special effects, there are some explosion scenes in one of the bigger sequences in this movie, and the camera is parked where it needs to be in a few different angles. There are several scenes that are very long walk and talks that are played out. It doesn't feel like he is trying to cut and keep people on the edge of their seats with that kind of style that is so used so often in these big productions. You feel like you're almost, I'm not going to say art house, but you feel like you are watching an artistic director approach a $200 million budget movie. And I thought that was really refreshing.
The impression I get is because in a lot of sci-fi, you see people making a choice for the sake of making a choice, or for spectacle or something like that. He makes a choice for a reason. Like there's nothing he does that isn't relevant to the story or the environment or everything that he's built. He has control over everything, and he's just working all those strings, dangling those fingers, and it's masterful. Like he is in control of everything, and he never takes it too far.
Yeah, dude. You and I think we said, Dave, you talked about it when we talked about Blade Runner. No, I guess we talked about Arrival on here. I can't remember if we talked about Blade Runner 2049 too, but you made a comment at one point about how detail oriented he is and how it came off that way and how he really is invested in all these things. And
Yeah.
it just sounds like they bring him up quite often on the Team Deacons podcast because they've collaborated with him more than once, and they really, really love him and the way he works. And from the very beginning, from the inception, when he starts working together with his department heads, they always bring up this concept that he talks about, how for the first few months that he likes to do what they just call dreaming, where they just sit around in a room and anything goes. They just talk about how they were going to approach making this movie. And it's so cool to know that someone at that level schedules in and allows people with that skill set and that amount of experience to just sit around and talk with no rules about how they could most effectively tell this story, and then have the discipline to get into the minutia and make something that is that detail oriented.
All the good ones collaborate. I mean, you've got hats off to Joe Walker, the editor of this.
Oh Jesus, yeah.
Can you imagine that phone call? It's like, you fucking want me to edit what? And it you know what's coming. It's going to be a long movie. There's going to be a lot of to keep everyone enraptured like he did. That was some masterful editing as well. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets a nomination for editing, also for sound mixing, of course. Yeah. That's coming. Sci-fi always goes in for those, but I feel like this is just going to wipe the floor with anything.
Yeah.
Greg Fraser.
Let me ask
Greg Fraser. On Aussie on the Lens. Aussie on the Lens. Yeah.
Yes.
He also shot Rogue One,
work.
so he's known for gritty sci-fi.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was
joke. And
we're good.
He shoot Dave, I sent his Team Deacons podcast I was like, dude, didn't he shoot a lot of Mandalorian too? So he's working with the CG backgrounds and stuff. But again,
he's
a
having all the
grounded
fun.
past, super talented. All right, so let me ask the big picture question, because I had a really excellent conversation the other day with a friend who saw it, and he had never read the book, and he kind of said exactly what I was kind of concerned some people would say. He said he was really impressed by it, but it didn't land with him because he never really felt like he was. He said the way he kind of basically was saying that he never really felt like he was super connected to the characters, and I was concerned about that going in. So I want to ask you, Jeff, directly, because this is one of those things where Denis Villeneuve apparently he was in front of a mirror and told himself when he was 10 years old, if I ever get to direct Dune, I'm going to direct it. It's like his dream. He's been wanting to do this since he was a kid. Loved this book as a kid. Bullshit, yada, yada, yada. One of the ways that this book is so interesting is in the telling. It has this almost, there's a distance between you and the characters. There is an observational perspective on it. And I think that Denis, whether or not, I'm sure he was aware of it, but he brought that kind of perspective to his camera and the way it's told. And I appreciate it because I thought it was really authentic. And it's part of the allure and the kind of mystique of the way Dune reads. And do you feel like that did the movie favors, or do you think it did a disservice, Jeff? Do you feel like, as someone who had never read the book, did you feel like there was too much of a distance between you and the characters?
I heard somebody else say that too. Our friends at the Matt and Mark movie podcast were having the same conversation, and they were thinking that maybe there was too much distance. And I've been thinking about that too, because for me, it's mostly about Timmy, right? So I'm just watching Timmy, and it opens with sort of Zendaya's kind of take on what's happening in planet Arrakis and with the Harkonnens. This is why I take my fucking notes, because I would have never pulled that out of my ass. I was like, the other guys, the Harkonnens.
Can you show up your notes?
Yeah, show your
notes
note.
The camera.
No way you can.
Screenshot. This is
no way
Jeff
you can read that.
Sheets of notes in the theater. That's
not that many sheets. And it was so packed. I had people on both sides of me. I was trying to hide it under my bike helmet. Okay, hold on.
Do you realize what that would look like to other people sitting in the theater? And
it's a yellow pad too. I know. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I know what you're saying. You insinuating motherfucker. I know. Get out of here. I know this is an adult movie podcast, but this is my life we're talking about here. All right. Okay.
Don't go Pee Wee Herman in the theaters.
Wow.
So when we get to Timmy, it's his dream. Come on, guys. We get to Timmy.
Sorry, go ahead.
So we finally get through the Zendaya thing, and then Timmy wakes up, and it's the dream thing you see in the trailer where he's clearly dreaming about Zendaya, and she's on the planet he's going to. Duh. Maybe it's a premonition. Maybe it's an omen. He's seeing the future. We don't really know. And I was worried that Timmy was going to be mopey again, because I've seen enough of him now where I was like, okay, he's great in Call Me by Your Name. He's great in a lot of the other movies that we were talking about before we started airing here. But it's like he's at the point now where he's got to start showing some range, or people are going to start getting tired of him. It just has nothing to do with Dune. But even in the trailer of this, he plays these characters that are so introspective that it just leaves him kind of like with the film eyes, of course, which is great. But it's kind of like, do something. I hope he can have that room. And in this, he's struggling with dreams. So I was really worried that it was going to be mopey. What I would say is that it's confusing, but it's meant to be, because Timmy's character, Paul, is confused because he's not wise enough to be able to understand or interpret his visions. And I got all of that. And so I was kind of feeling that disconnect you're saying, John, but it actually really worked for me because it allowed for perspective. It allowed for us to see him from the point of view of what are Zendaya's characters, the Fremens and such.
Yeah.
When he goes to the new planet, we can see him as this... you know what it would be like? It would be like at the end of the first Star Wars at the medal ceremony. It would be like if you could watch these characters from the point of view of the crowd. But we can't get that perspective because we know the characters too well. And so we were able to see Timmy from a lot of different points of view. And I do think that was effective. But him and Rebecca Ferguson and Oscar Isaac, I don't know how you can not feel connected to those characters. And I'm sure other people are sitting there going, I didn't relate to the characters.
I loved
that's crazy
Oscar Isaac
to me.
in this. He was
all
phenomenal.
three of them, they were a very clear family that had you understood. We also knew Rebecca Ferguson's journey with not telling him things.
And it's interesting that it came across like that. The one thing I do know about the book is Paul is never in control of his own situation.
Exactly, and I got that.
And
that was cool.
they definitely communicate that with the distance, because he's trying to cope with what's going on, and it's just like not there. So you're never really 100% in his court, because he's not a hero of his own story.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people felt the disconnect.
I'm curious to see him grow up too in part two. Now, especially now that there's been distance, because he's very skinny and very young, which works for this. And so sometimes the trouble with arcing this character, because he very clearly is, this is the hero's journey, right? This is Frodo, but it's also even more so Luke and I don't know, Jon Snow, or somebody that's clearly, there is destiny that is beyond their control and even beyond their birthright to some extent, is clearly what they're playing with here. And he's so skinny and so young looking like this that even in the fight that he wins at the end, spoiler, of course, he's going to be in part two, people, so he wins the fight. But even in the fight at the end, it's like he still seems really young. And so very clearly it's sort of that he's become a man. He's accomplished that. It's now time. He's now ready to begin the journey of claiming this I guess birthright. And I'm very curious to see that. I bet you in the future we're going to have two movies back to back that are really going to emphasize
I wondered, did he get the phone call? It's like, part two's been greenlit. Go to the gym.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, because he could be skinny as fuck as Wonka, and he can have that jawline and everything, but the androgyny thing's not going to sell for part two.
For part two, we're putting you in Sting's winged underpants, so go to the gym, for God's sake.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does. I agree with everything you said, and I think it did work for me. It also, one thing I think they're really trying to push here that is clear, and I could see it politically, and some people just not wanting this right now. But that kind of distance or cold kind of thing, whatever you want to call it, I think it made sense for a royal family. They are these people who are kind of subject to whatever the emperor. There's an emperor who rules this entire fucking galaxy, and they don't really have much control over that. It's also a unique scenario that I hope got picked up on, that Jessica and Duke, Oscar and Rebecca Ferguson's character are not technically married.
Yeah, that was right.
Sorry, yeah,
that got me.
So
that was a good one.
They're a partnership and they have a child together. Like they're in love, but there's a whole different issue with her sisterhood, the Bene Gesserit, and the way that works. So it's not only are they a royal family, they're an unorthodox royal family. Duke Atreides is an unorthodox duke. He didn't take it up in the same way that his line did in the past. So I don't know. Everything that was set up about it is interesting to me. I guess I'm not surprised. There are a lot of people who have read Dune and have been like, I didn't ever get that kind of feel good connection that you have. It's not written that way. So I'm never going to be surprised when people react to the movies that way either.
Did anybody else, just to change track slightly, did anyone else recognize Stellan Skarsgård? Or is it just me? Unfucking recognizable.
It took me a minute.
His voice. Yeah. I was like,
"Oh, okay,
is that a Skarsgård?" I was like,
Yeah, that's what I said too. I was like, which Skarsgård is it?
Yeah, which guy was like, is that a Skarsgård? I mean, he was remarkable.
Got some Skarsgårds
and that
in
is
here.
a character that I don't think anyone has nailed that character yet. And all these other adaptations, how it's written in this very specific way about he's got these things because he's so fat that he like floats around and I mean, really,
there was a reason
really cool.
for everything in this film.
Yeah, it was like Darth Vader meets Marlon Brando from Apocalypse Now. Come on, you can't.
Sure.
With the way he was scratching his head, he was.
You're right,
he was
but damn, dude.
Yeah, no, they knew exactly.
And Darth
what
Vader,
they
because
were doing
apparently
there.
he can drink fluid when he's underwater, or whatever. It does. I don't even care. It was really, really interesting. Damn, when he was up on the wall, it reminded me of was it which horror movie is it? Is it It's not Insidious. Is it Insidious where they have the vision and the fucking demon is on the wall?
Yeah,
he's hiding on the wall after the gas thing, which fucking Oscar Isaac, man, you got to follow through, bro. Come on. But when he's up there on the ceiling, I was like, motherfucking cockroach. He went from a
so
snake
powerful,
to a
right?
cockroach.
Yeah.
The
same guy said the same friend of mine said he didn't feel like there was any emotional landing whenever Oscar Isaac does what he does, and
I
he
never
didn't
get
feel
that
like
with
the,
Oscar Isaac.
I'm
Like,
going
I want him to
to call spoilers now. We're going into spoilers territory.
Now we're going into spoilers.
No, we didn't ruin anything really up to this point, but we're going into spoilers. So spoilers.
I thought that moment landed for me when Oscar sacrifices himself. I thought it was extremely emotional, and cutting back to
he was gonna die. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, of course, but but when they cut back to inside the little tent where Jessica and Paul are, I thought that they felt it, so much. Whether or not we like it, we have seen a movie before, maybe you've heard of it, called Star Wars, where there is a lot of internal, the Force, voiceover. The way they handled it was usually through voiceover. Whenever Luke was sensing something, Obi-Wan would speak in a reverbed voiceover to let you know that he was talking to, the ghost of his teacher. This is a story that I'm curious to see how they keep going, because as Paul Atreides evolves into the Lisan al-Gaib, this thing that the Fremen were calling him, so much of this story already in this one, you could tell with the dreams and everything, is internal, just how a lot of novels are. A lot of it is happening inside his head.
That's what makes it so hard to adapt.
That's why it's so hard to adapt, and I think Denis is in the right place. But yeah, I really I responded really well to this. I thought not only was it authentic, so the book lover was satisfied in me, but I thought cinematically there are a few very key elements. This thing called the voice that is, in a novel, that kind of thing can work wonders because it's in your head. You can imagine whatever you want. How do you make that cinematic without it sounding cheesy? It has to be external. It has to be, an action that can be heard. It's a voice, and I thought it worked. Was that cheesy to you guys?
Question for you though.
No.
Do you think this is going to get an Oscar for production design?
Dave with the Oscars. I'm usually the Oscar one out of the group.
Seriously,
here. It should.
Unbelievable, dude. They shot most of this in Budapest, I think, and it was just I saw a screening a couple weeks ago.
Not even that, the CG environments, like the massive hyperspace gates and stuff like that. I don't know whether it was just because that was one of the ones that the shots that was an IMAX, but the size of that thing was communicated perfectly. Like everything was just
amazing, and I love that they didn't explain them. I love that. We got it. We know what's happening. We can tell. The implications, the way they used implications were so wonderful.
And
dude,
Dave, the cities, the thropters, all the crafts, the mining craft, everything.
Dude, the major attack on the city, those explosions looked incredible.
Yeah.
Dude, especially that one shot where the explosion comes up and wipes the frame.
Yeah.
And we see, my
but
God.
also, not a lot happens in the first, I want to say, half an hour of this film, and it doesn't feel slow at all.
It still feels like an epic movie.
They're getting you in. You're getting to know these people. They're setting the scene. They're giving you what you need to know, and but they're doing this on this beautiful world that is comparatively to the opposite of where they're going. And you've seen both, and they kind of bounce back and forwards. Wow. And it really, the whole thing is very slick. Production
and kudos to them for doing the setup at the beginning with the Zendaya Arrakis kind of thing. So you could see some scale. You can see planets. You can see the enormous ships. You can see the Harkonnen kind of firepower. You can see that.
The next movie,
then the next part of the movie
right in the place you're supposed to be.
could be a little slow while Timothy Chalamet and Oscar Isaac and Rebecca Ferguson, they're trying to figure stuff out. I also like this movie definitely brings up the white savior syndrome, because they go to this planet and say, we got you, we'll save everything. Of course they get fucking shelled and ramshacked, and they didn't want to go in the first place, so it's a little bit of a play on that, and I'm sure that the book addresses that. I think somebody mentioning to the attack you're talking about with the city, I kind of love the monotoneness of it. It's in a desert, so that's realistic. You're not going to have as many colors as you would have elsewhere. But somebody noticed that like it was confusing. They didn't know who was who in the battle, and I was like, what is wrong with why? I don't mean to complain, because I like them, so if they're listening, they're going to know who they are. But the question is, why do we need battles to be clear? It's a fucking battle. It's a war, and they're getting attacked. I am thrilled when I'm sitting there going, now. Of course, like the Game of Thrones burning the fucking city thing was like, okay, this is stupid. I don't know what's going on. But in this particular battle, I'm like, it's confusing as fuck. Like I love the confusion, because I'm sitting there going, what the fuck is going on? And I'm trying to figure it out, rather than sitting there going, I don't even know who's dying. And it's like, well, the implications are big, so I better see this thing through. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I'm glad I'm having this conversation, because now it's having a lasting impact on me.
No. I think it's important. I mean, and it reads that way too. Like, they're not fighting orcs. They're not fighting stormtroopers. Like, the whole point of this guy, Frank Herbert, who wrote this, was in politics in the U.S. government, pretty high up. I can't remember what position he held. I think he was in the Department of Agriculture at some point. He studied different languages, and he prepped for this book for over a decade, studying ancient languages out of the Middle East and trying to understand like old, very ancient, like military tactics and stuff like that. So he was really into the geopolitics of it all. And inside that level of geopolitics is a purposeful commentary on the confusion of this strive for power. Anyone who remembers trying to watch Game of Thrones for the first few episodes, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Yes. Like, there's just, and you kind of have to get your grip. And the only important thing that happens, not the only, but like the whole reason that I don't mind that battle being a little confusing if you don't understand what's happening, is that the only truly important thing is what happens to the family. That's all that actually matters, is the situation that it puts the Atreides in at the end of it. Everybody is trying to get that power back. Anyone could probably guess that, all right, the Harkonnens are going to try to get Dune back, but now the Emperor has a stake in it, because apparently he had something, going on with Paul Vendetta, but he didn't necessarily want the Harkonnens to be back in power. So now there's going to be more confusion.
It's
See, I didn't mind that at all. Like, what did you guys think about?
I would say, at the risk of summing up early, but like, you are definitely missing something if you don't see this in the cinema. Like, if you just watch it on HBO, it's still good. But
I need to rewatch it
because my wife watched it, because she's at the point now where the cinemas are getting a little crowded. She's not quite comfortable yet going back, which is just fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. If you're not comfortable going to a theater, watch this on HBO. Great, but I will tell you, this is made for a cinema. And we did a really cute thing. We started I was like, at 1 p.m. start the movie, which is when mine was starting, because you get that half-hour pre-show bullshit. And so she watched at the same time as me, and I think she was about 2 minutes ahead of me or something. So when the credits rolled, I looked at my phone and I had this text message like, "Oh my fucking god, this is worse than a TV series. They need to make the next one now." All in caps. Yeah. Like, it was great. So like, she had the same reaction to me about it, and she's not sci-fi, like hardcore sci-fi.
There's also something that I think is that is essential to this story, which is very difficult, I think, to convey. We have seen a little movie called Lawrence of Arabia pull it off, but the power and mystique and allure of a desert, the reveal of Dune, when that ship opens up and the light hits their eyes, just the way that it is introduced to you, that was the first level. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is interesting. He had been studying it through the holograms and stuff, getting to see it. That was really powerful to me. The way they set it up once they got there.
Stuff. Yeah.
But when he and Rebecca Ferguson, when he and Jessica are finally stuck out in the desert, even after this amazing sequence where they go rescue people and after a giant sandworm is, that's fun. But when they're stuck and they think they're almost to a place of refuge and they climb a dune and there's just more endless desert in front of them, this feeling you get that
I was like,
he belongs
Australia
there. But it's not just a lot of times in movies we see that and we just think, oh, this is just an obstacle. It's scary. They're trapped. They're going to die. They did a good job of walking that line where it has to seem as an obstacle, but to Paul, it has to seem as his Eden. Like he has found where he's supposed to be. And I felt like cinematically, I felt it completely. Like I cannot wait to see a movie set in a desert. That's crazy. Like that's hard. All the, you know.
I love. It's kind of turning into the Sand People from the Star Wars. You know, at the end when they finally actually get to the rock structures where they are. The people are it's they're so cool. The way they hide in the sand and then pop up. Like I think that's such a fucking cool thing. Again, they didn't have to explain it. You just see it and you're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
If I have one actual like thoughtful. That's not what am I saying? If I have one critique about the Fremen though, we see Javier Bardem's character, which, you know, when you have a star in a movie, you know that it's important. So I didn't know exactly, was he royalty in the Fremen? Like, how does that kind of governance work? And then when we see them later, I kind of was like expecting, I didn't expect just like a band of, like they seem like bandits. And I was kind of like, I kind of had higher hopes for that. So I'm still a little confused, even though on the whole, the way that they were sold, the Fremen, when Jason Momoa was talking about them, I was like, these people seem awesome. And we clearly haven't gotten into that yet.
No, you'll get that in part two.
My introduction to them is kind of like even fucking Thrones, man. Even when they're like, welcome to the King Beyond the Wall, and you see the city, and then it's like cut out. Like, I think they set up that better than Dune did. Dune has a lot of ground to make up for me as far as like the next journey with Fremen society.
He nailed his appearance. Like, he's in it for what, 3 minutes, maybe.
Javier Bardem?
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
His first one, but the second part again, it just seemed a little.
I mean, that's setting up for what's to come. You haven't seen
that's
them
interesting.
as a society.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say that, because they are basically not like Bedouin, but probably closer to like Bedouin than they are to a rooted civilization, because they do move depending on. And you'll learn more about that. My only critique about this movie is that, just as a lover of the book, I thought he was going to maybe pull a Peter Jackson, and I don't want to give anything away. I'm not going to spoil it, but the way Peter Jackson ends the Two Towers by taking the battle that's technically at the beginning of the end of the next book in the 6-book Lord of the Rings anthology. Helm's Deep is not actually at the end of that book, but he knew cinematically it was like, this is such a high point. Let's go for it, and it's fucking remarkable. What a good choice. There is something that happens pretty soon after they take Paul and Jessica into their thing that is a huge high point, and I thought he was going to end with that, or at least getting into that.
They definitely went full Empire. This is the Empire.
They really
right
cut
now.
it off. That is an Empire ending, and I did not care for Zendaya's last line. I just didn't need it. I didn't need it to be that literal. Maybe they could have used it for the trailer. It's only the beginning. Or this is only the beginning. Yeah. But I just, I knew it was. Yeah, of course, we're coming back. You got part 2. Like, Dune's gonna, we know. So that frustrated me a little bit. I was like, damn it, I wish you wouldn't have said that.
I did like Timothy as Paul's last line, though. I think it's his last line, where his mother is like, I don't know if we should be doing this. We should think about this. Of course, he just killed somebody. So it's like, oh, great. We have options. No. You're in this now, dude. But I do love that he was like, he with confidence says, this is where I must be. I've seen it. And he turns around and walks away. And Rebecca Ferguson, who has been skeptical of his ability to understand his powers, understand his dreams, the whole movie, she knows, not just because he won the battle, but she goes, okay, he's right. He knows this, and I have to trust him, and I have to follow. So he is already becoming that, which he is.
One of the most interesting things I found, because, like I said, my wife and I watched it at the same time, but separately, we came home and we discussed it, and we had 2 different interpretations of what the visions meant. And it was
which vision?
All of them put together, because they're all a piece of the same puzzle,
and they're all in the future.
It was like
I don't know what Denis got cooked up.
We had 2 very different interpretations of what it was guiding him to and how it was guiding him to it, and it was funny because like I got where they went, and she took a more literal route. So I feel like some people might come away confused about that, but they're meant to be confusing.
Don't you smirk, John? That smug, you fucking smug. I'm gonna buzz your smug smirk cool. That our audience.
No, it's
can't
fun.
even
It's cool.
See.
I'm excited for people to see what happens, because it's not quite what you think, and it's a good.
Maybe
it's
when I
turn.
finish grad school, I can actually read a gigantic book.
It's like a 700-page book. I did want to ask you guys one last question. Did you feel that the way he filmed, like all of the action, just in general, as small as the fight scene at the end, just 2 people fighting, and the big attack, do you guys feel like that was I've heard a couple of people say they were kind of bored. Like I don't know how else to say it, and I haven't really read any critics say anything specifically about that.
Those people are overcritical fucks, and they should never go to the movies again.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's just the lack of the cut thing? Like, I don't know.
Like
I thought it was
the one-on-one combat.
that, but also the giant combat. I mean, all the fight scenes when Jason was fighting a bunch of people kind of by
No, that was
himself, or
cool.
just the
That
big
was cool.
attack.
No,
Yeah,
No, because Jason Momoa knew he was gonna die. He knew it. Timmy already told him he was gonna die, and he made that choice. And I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think. I think everything was as big or as small as intended. Like, and it was,
I think so too.
Again, it was a choice for a reason. Like, that fight was kept small and contained because it's just two people, and you're in it. By that point, I was like, because I like having not read the book, I had no idea which way that was going to go.
Yeah.
The fight at the end, like the battle,
especially because they
like,
give you
fucked.
those
like
those sweet visions.
yeah.
Again, just like in the book, that handled that so well. Just like in the book, there's so many like mantras and things that happen in their head that he learns from his mother, who's a part of the Bene Gesserit. It is like a witch. It's a line of witches. There's really no way else to say it. They have a lot of political power, but they're also mystics. And she's teaching him all these things throughout his life. And now he finally gets to this place. And whenever he uses them, it's kind of like, use the Force, Luke. But he says it inside his head in the book. So like that vision he has about I did feel like that like this was a good example. There were a lot of the voiceover things that were happening inside his head that I don't think you were supposed to understand every word, because I could not understand every word. I knew what they were saying because I remember the quotes from the books, but I bet a lot of people didn't know. But that was a perfect example of when he envisioned himself dying. And basically the quote is something like, you must die to be reborn.
Yes.
Harry Potter.
to live
Never
again.
heard of that.
And I just thought I thought that was super effective. If you had never read the book or anything,
no,
I think
Dune
people
ripped
thought
off Harry Potter?
something was going to happen there.
Wait, when was that? Wait, how did Dune rip off a book? Dune came first. Damn it, JK.
Man, I had a really good time.
I had a
think
great
even
time
if you
with
do
this.
have any
Yeah.
issues, like I'm definitely going to watch this again. Jeff,
Me too.
go back to your very first comment. I know what you mean about, I don't know if it's going to land and last with me as much. I know what you mean by saying that. I have a feeling we might feel very differently by the end of the whole thing.
Well, of course.
I think
Yeah.
the way he ended this one really was very Empire, and I think he might. I don't know if he regrets it. I don't know if there's any critique about it. It definitely didn't. It made you want to watch the next one, but
I wish I could.
it came close to not giving you a complete story with this one. I think they could have gone a little bit further. I kind of wanted them to end on a gigantic, epic high note as opposed to the small duel, basically. But
And hopefully,
whatever, I'm
with
super
more
pumped.
time spending with them, I can figure out a little bit more about just what it's like to live in the worlds that they're in. You know?
And they just greenlit a series called Dune: The Sisterhood. So I think it's going to be about the Bene Gesserit line, which is his mother, and he's behind that as well. So I think we're about to see Dune explode and turn
HBO
into a
Max
bunch of
is
crap.
sucking up everything they can.
Yeah, he also just got greenlit to direct a remake. He's just only going to make 4-hour movies from now on, you guys. Fucking Cleopatra.
What?
That movie independently sunk an entire studio into the ground when that movie was made in the 60s.
won tour
starring
guide.
Liz Taylor. And one tour guide. Somebody fucking died on that, didn't they?
No, she didn't
But I mean,
die.
literally-
She didn't die, but she was giving them a tour on the weekend, and the milk bath was still. They didn't empty the milk bath, and it had congealed into a solid like cheese type thing.
Oh, God
and
damn it.
She mistook it for a marble floor and stepped on it and promptly disappeared from fucking sight.
Oh
Wow.
my!
I bet she
God.
smells stinky and delicious.
Do you tip after that? Do you get some crackers? What do you do?
Who goes in? Who dives in? Like, how do you get
No,
there?
you're in your
Isn't
own.
that crazy?
You're in your own.
So my last thought on that is that I'm a huge fan of Denis, and I can't wait to see what he does. He's probably my favorite big director now. But
Yeah.
I really, really, really am looking forward to when he takes a step back from these monster films and makes another Prisoners or another smaller intimate
loved
drama. Like,
Prisoners.
it'll be fun to see him go back and forth. Anyway,
That was my.
I'm
First,
really glad you guys liked it.
Prisoners was my first Alamo Drafthouse experience.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
what an intense
interesting
fucking
choice,
movie
yeah.
to
Right.
watch with a beer in your hand, like with people like eating nachos around you and shit. That's fucking intense as
Yeah,
well.
the nachos slowed right the fuck down. I can tell you.
Guys, I watched two. There are two of Denis' shorts that are available on YouTube and Vimeo. I suggest watching them. Those are pretty awesome short films.
I did not know this.
Next Floor and Fast Forward Rewind. One of them is like from 2000 when he's like 20, 21, really young. And Next Floor is right before he made his second big feature. And it's in like 2008. So right before he started exploding. Really, that guy's a vision. Like he's got it going. Anyway, how much fun was this?
Yeah, I feel like just out of posterity, I should really just hit that.
Gosh,
Oh yeah, just because you know
we
what?
went the whole way through the fucking episode.
God damn it, we're still drinking though.
Yeah.
Still drinking. All right, people. Well, it is that time of the episode where we give you our recommendations, things that we have been watching since our last episode. John, it's been 2 weeks for you since we missed you last week.
Yeah.
It has. I have a few.
Let's start with
if
you
you want
this
me to
week.
go
John, what have you
first,
been
yeah.
watching?
I got to see some really excellent screenings. I will begin with a movie called Luzu that won Best Actor at Sundance this past year. Really powerful independent film set in the island of Malta about a fisherman. I know that sounds like super artsy, but it is like really character oriented. It's an excellent movie. I suggest you watch it. I think it went on Prime. I think Prime or Hulu bought it. Definitely worth watching. Really powerful. I saw a documentary called In the Same Breath that Chinese American documentarian. She got very famous several years ago for making One Child Nation, that really intense documentary about China's policy in the past with the one child. She made this. She was coincidentally visiting her family in China in January of 2020. So you know where I'm going with that. She basically covered from the beginning China, and the movie turns into how China dealt with it, and she came back over here and how America dealt with it. And she got to do a Q&A with us. It was really fun. Both of the countries just really made some terrible, awful mistakes in their own authoritarian or democratic republic ways. It was a really interesting perspective. Good movie. That'll be streaming soon, I think, on HBO. And I've been looking forward to this one. I saw Scott Cooper and Guillermo del Toro's Antlers. I think that's coming to theaters soon, too. That was a really fun watch.
I think it's out now, actually.
Yeah, I think you should go check it out. It's like a fun little contained horror fable, just like Guillermo loves to do. He produced it. I think he may have written a draft earlier on, but Scott Cooper, director of Black Mass, in the Furnace, Out of the Furnace.
Dude, I'll watch Guillermo open an envelope, quite frankly. Like,
honestly,
yeah.
Scott Cooper's great. Kerry Russell is awesome in it. Jesse Plemons is great in it. She's the lead.
Yeah, great. Yeah. All right. I mean,
Antlers.
Check it out.
Dave, what you been watching?
I finished Midnight Mass.
And?
Oh, sweet.
Holy fuck, dude! I did not. There's a twist. I did not see it coming. I called what was going on in the first episode. Basically, I was like, it's this, and I did not see the twist coming. And then it finishes on a really ambiguous note, which I kind of like. That was good. And then of course Halloween week, so I went back to a couple of rewatches.
Nice.
And I started it. I kicked it off with Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And I made it about halfway through the film. So.
Elvira, God almighty, dude.
Okay, no, seriously, respect, because she coined that bit and she has stuck with it. And like, she's still turning out stuff. There's a reunion special coming out.
I was about to say, how did that happen? How did she? She developed
the character on a minor network, and then it just got picked up.
Wasn't it like literally like the?
She was literally introing movies like Joe Bob.
The Wayne's World cable. You know what they call it in our local cable channels and like
public access.
Public access. Yeah. She had a public access channel, didn't she? She just talked about movies.
I don't know if it was public access, but yeah, basically she just introed movies and then paid the shit out of them after they finished. Like who'd make a show out of that? Honestly,
that's so good. Jeff, how are you?
I watched Chappelle. I abstain. I have nothing to say about it.
I watched it too.
And
I haven't watched that yet.
I liked it. I'll say it. I thought it was funny.
It was funny. I do think it was a little hurtful. I do think that he crossed the line, and it wasn't a pure comedy sketch, so I'll stand for that. So even though comedians should have a little bit of rope because of free speech, I do think that this was more of a treatise than it was a pure comedy special. And I think some of the things he said, like gender is a fact, go fuck yourself, some of those things I was like, I think he could have phrased it better. Some of it did seem harmful.
Was it a case of I got away with it last time, I'm going to kick it up a notch?
No, his premises were good. His premises were really, 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 really good. Okay, fine. We'll talk about it. His two main premises were
Because I haven't
about,
seen this yet.
His two main premises were about DaBaby, the artist who had killed somebody in a Walmart in North Carolina, and his career always seemed to improve
Walmart is
because
not
of it.
notoriously deadly.
Right. Well, I mean,
It's just
anyway.
comical.
So he killed somebody at a Walmart in North Carolina, and that was like before his career took off. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh my God, he's legit. And then he said some homophobic things, and then he was canceled, lost sponsorship. So Davis' premise
Okay,
was
wait. He killed someone in a Walmart, but got cancelled for being homophobic.
That's the premise number one.
The first one didn't do it.
So I think these are important because obviously the storylines are about the walkout and stuff, and so that's important to know that's what all of this started with. The second thing was about Dave approaching some gay fans. He thought they were fans, but they ended up trying to rile him up. And then at some point, this white gay man tried to call the cops on him. And he said, everybody's a minority until they realize that they can use their whiteness against black people. And so that was the second premise. So these dueling premises of where does that leave him?
That is
and
some
so
dueling
all of
conflicts
the
right there,
anti-trans stuff, he was like, whoa, I've never said anti-trans things in the past before this episode. However, some of the jokes in this episode, specifically one bathroom joke where it made it seem like he was genuinely like scared of trans people in the bathroom. And it was funny. It was kind of funny the way he did it. But at the same time, I don't think it was in good taste.
I mean,
and then he made another joke. Well, it was really about J.K. Rowling, where he said gender's a fucking fact. Don't tell me it's not. What he didn't say was, can we at least respect uteruses? But no, he just said gender's a fact, go fuck yourself. And so it seemed like a lecture, and it did seem like it was kind of mean. So even though free speech is a real thing, I understand why people are pissed off about it.
I mean, I know stand-up comedy, you play a character as such.
He was playing himself. He was 100% playing himself. And again, it was more of a lecture treatise than
that's a break of the rules. You kind of there has to be a separation there.
John, do you want to weigh in? You can pass. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is a hairy
this is a
issue.
hot
I think he
one.
ultimately built to the thesis that he was like, if you don't think I know what I know what I was saying, and he did acknowledge that he is dealing with his own version of trans and homophobia. But he was basically saying, if you thought that I was only talking about that and you didn't realize that I was really just saying fuck all white people because this is turned into them, then you're a fucking idiot. And then I just will say, I'll just come back to push against the bathroom comment. In that same sequence, he built to basically saying, I guess a part of me is a feminist. He had made that joke earlier, and I do agree with JK because the year that damn it, what's her name? God, I'm gonna go on air.
Caitlyn Jenner won Woman of the Year. Yeah.
He was like, the year that Caitlyn Jenner transitioned, she won Woman of the Year. He's like, can you fucking imagine like how some women felt about that? That's better than all you bitches here in Detroit. He was in Detroit. That's better than every woman on the earth. That man transitioned that year, and she won Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
So I think he was making.
I get
that's
the premises were
I
good.
get it.
That
is like whitewashing almost.
I'm
washing.
Yeah.
I'm saying all this because I think people, I think it's worth watching, but I also think it's okay to say I think a couple of them were not the kindest things.
I mean, you definitely tread a line when you're doing this stuff.
I also feel like that is we are totally in our right as audience members to feel like some things that a comedian says are uncouth or pushed it a little bit too far, to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that somebody that accomplished and that intelligent with their craft doesn't know what they're doing and they're only offensive is equally or dangerously more ignorant. I would say that.
Okay, there you go. So I saw that.
I haven't seen it. I can't judge yet. So I'll watch it this week.
I saw Peter Berg's documentary about Wayne Gretzky getting traded from not Ottawa, from the Edmonton Oilers to the Los Angeles.
How much explosions in the sky music was playing in the background of that documentary?
All right. Peter Berg. It was just an excuse for him to go golfing with Wayne Gretzky, I think, because it did seem like he phoned it in a little bit. But anyway, all right.
Did Wayne Gretzky's son-in-law show up on the course? Because
his son-in-law did not show up on the course, nor did his daughter. Heyo. Okay, so here we go, people. That is our Dune episode.
Wow.
Next week we're doing a movie that Dave has been looking forward to for quite some while. Isn't that right, Dave?
Oh yeah.
Doing Last Night in Soho.
Fuck
people.
yeah, Last Night in Soho, baby.
Bring it for Halloween.
All right. So until then, we'll see you soon, film fans.